All right, ready to dive deep. Today we're tackling the entourage effect. Our listener wants to really understand it, especially the whole plant versus isolate debate. And we have a lot of research to dig into.
Definitely a hot topic. And we're going all the way with you asking for a PhD-level explanation of cannabinoid signaling. We'll get to those CB receptors and pathways for sure.
Absolutely. But before we go full-on cellular, let's set the scene. We've got the famous endocannabinoids, anandamide, and 2-AG, right? But there's so much more to the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole universe we've barely explored. Who knows how many other endocannabinoids are out there, each with its own role. And that's where the whole plant versus isolate thing gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm hooked. What's this entourage effect all about then?
You know, it's like, think of a jazz band. You've got your saxophone, trumpet, bass, all fantastic on their own, but put them together and you get something magical, way beyond just adding them up.
So are you saying the cannabinoids, terpenes, and everything else in cannabis are like the instruments in the band?
Exactly. The entourage effect is that magic when they all work together. Research is saying this could create a way broader range of effects than just isolated cannabinoids, like THC or CBD on their own.
So whole plant is like the full concert, and isolates are like just one instrument.
You got it. And this isn't just some theory. It affects how these compounds work in our bodies with the endocannabinoid system, that whole network of receptors and signals controlling things like mood and pain.
Now this is where we get really technical, right? Our listener wants that PhD-level rundown of cannabinoid signaling. Let's break down those CB1 and CB2 receptors, the whole GPCR activation, the whole shebang.
Okay, let's do it. We start with CB1 and CB2 receptors, which belong to this huge family called G protein-coupled receptors, or GPCRs.
So these receptors are how the cannabinoids get into our cells, is that it?
Right. And when a cannabinoid, or anything that binds to a GPCR, it starts a chain reaction inside the cell, like dominoes falling.
Dominoes falling. Okay, I like that visual. So what's the first domino?
The receptor actually changes shape when the cannabinoid binds to it. We call it a conformational change. This then kicks off interactions with other proteins, the G proteins.
And are those G proteins like messengers, taking the signal further?
Exactly. They're key for getting the signal from the receptor to the rest of the cell. Different types of G proteins like gunny, GAIO, GOS trigger different effects.
So different G proteins do different things, like different chains of dominoes, each causing something specific to happen.
Right. And once activated, these G proteins go on to interact with other molecules, keeping those dominoes falling. This triggers whole cascades of signaling pathways involving things like CAMP, PSA-A, calcium ions, PLC, DAT3.
Wow, it's a lot going on there. It's like a perfectly choreographed molecular dance, all started by that first cannabinoid binding.
It's amazing, isn't it? And it doesn't stop there. This cascade also activates what we call MAPK pathways, another set of signaling pathways that are involved in cell growth, differentiation, even cell death. ERK, JNK, P38, they're all part of this complex web.
My brain's doing some serious biochemistry right now, but I think I'm following. So you have the receptors like CB1 and CB2 activated by the cannabinoids. That sets off a whole chain reaction of signals inside the cell, leading to all kinds of effects.
You got it. And remember, this is simplified. The real process is way more complex, with so many molecules working together perfectly.
Well, I'm definitely feeling the complexity. But before I totally overload, let's get back to that whole plant versus isolate debate. How does all this molecular action relate to the benefits of whole plant cannabis?
That's the big question, and one we'll dig into more deeply right after. Well, we'll just keep going. No breaks today.
All right, my head's still spinning a bit from all those pathways and signals, but I'm ready to hear how this all connects to the whole plant versus isolate debate.
Well, remember that jazz band. If isolates are like solo performances, whole plant cannabis is the full band, right? And that richer sound, it could mean a wider range of therapeutic effects too.
So the entourage effect, that synergy, it's like the key to unlocking more ways to use cannabis for good.
Exactly. It's not just the individual parts, it's how they blend to create something better, maybe even more effective for treating certain things.
Okay, I see the bigger picture, but can you give me an example? How do these different compounds actually work together to create specific effects?
Think about pain management. Research suggests that THC, which we know helps with pain, might work even better when combined with some terpenes like beta-caryophyllene. This terpene, it actually activates the CB2 receptor, which is all about pain and inflammation.
So combining THC with that specific terpene could make pain release even stronger. That's fascinating.
Exactly. And it's not just for pain. Studies also suggest that CBD, which is known for its anti-anxiety effects, can actually modulate THC's psychoactivity. So it might reduce anxiety or paranoia that some people experience.
Like CBD is smoothing out the rough edges, making the whole experience better.
That's a great way to think about it. And it goes beyond just cannabinoids and terpenes. Flavonoids, those are other compounds in cannabis. They also play a role in this whole interaction.
Wow, so it sounds like we've only just scratched the surface of how these compounds all work together. But how does this relate to the whole plant versus isolate debate then?
Well, if this synergy is as powerful as it seems, then using whole plant cannabis with its full spectrum of compounds might be a more effective approach for some things than just using isolates like CBD or THC by themselves.
So it's like experiencing the full orchestra, not just a single instrument. Makes you wonder if we've been missing out on a lot by focusing only on isolates.
That's a good point, and something researchers are definitely looking into. But it's important to remember that we're still learning about the entourage effect. It's complex.
So while there's evidence for whole plant being better in some cases, we need more research to really understand all the details, right?
Absolutely. We're just at the beginning. Imagine what we could do if we knew exactly how all these cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids work together to create specific effects.
It's like having all these ingredients but not knowing the perfect recipe yet. We need more research to figure out the best combinations.
Exactly. And that's where the future of this research is going, finding ways to unlock the full potential of the entourage effect.
It sounds like there are a lot of exciting discoveries waiting to be made.
There are. And one of the big challenges is figuring out how this synergy works at a molecular level. How do these different compounds interact with each other to produce these unique effects?
It's like a big puzzle, right? We have all the pieces, but we need to figure out how they fit together.
That's a great way to put it. And to solve this puzzle, we can't just look at the individual compounds. We need to study them as a whole.
So we need to look at how the whole orchestra plays together, not just the individual instruments.
Exactly. A more holistic approach is needed.
This is fascinating stuff, but I admit it's a lot to take in. Can we simplify this for our listeners who might be feeling overwhelmed?
Sure. Think of the cannabis plant like a natural pharmacy. It's got all these compounds that work together to create a wide range of effects. The entourage effect is the idea that these compounds work better together, boosting each other's effects. This is probably why whole plant cannabis can be more effective for certain things than isolated compounds.
That's a great way to sum it up. So we're moving from just looking at the parts to understanding the power of the whole plant.
Exactly. And the more we learn, the more we'll discover about this incredible plant and its potential to improve our health.
I'm definitely feeling more knowledgeable, and I'm sure our listeners are too. Before we wrap things up, what are your thoughts on the future of research in this area? What are the most promising ways to explore and use the entourage effect?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll get into in the last part of our deep dive. Keep listening.
All right, we've been on quite a journey, haven't we? From diving deep into those cellular pathways to all the potential of the entourage effect. So, what does the future hold for research in this area? Where do we go from here?
Oh, the possibilities are huge. Personalized medicine, for example. Imagine tailoring cannabis treatments to each person's specific needs, their own endocannabinoid system.
Wow, that's amazing. Like moving from a one-size-fits-all approach to something that's specifically designed for you.
Exactly. We could analyze a person's endocannabinoid tone, their genes, even their microbiome, and then create custom blends of cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, everything just for them.
So instead of just like a generic strain, you'd have a specific formula made just for you. That's pretty incredible.
It could revolutionize how we treat all kinds of things, chronic pain, anxiety, maybe even neurodegenerative diseases.
Like your own personal orchestra playing a symphony just for your health.
Yeah.
But what are some of the roadblocks? What's stopping us from getting there?
One big challenge is standardized testing, making sure all cannabis products are tested the same way and we know exactly what's in them. Right now, it's a bit of a guessing game.
So we need better ways to measure the exact amounts of cannabinoids, terpenes, and everything else in each product. That way we can be sure what people are getting and what the effects will be.
Exactly. And this standardization is crucial, not just for personalized medicine, but for all research. We need solid clinical trials to really understand what different cannabis formulations can do.
Otherwise, it's like trying to study, I don't know, the effects of music without knowing what instruments are being played or how the music is composed.
Precisely. We need clear guidelines for research. How to conduct trials, analyze data, report the findings, the whole thing.
So bringing the same level of scientific rigor to cannabis research that we use for other medicines.
Exactly. It's how we build a strong foundation for cannabis therapeutics and get more acceptance from the medical community.
It's about moving from anecdotes and personal stories to real evidence-based medicine.
And as we do that, we can truly unlock the potential of the entourage effect and change how we think about health and well-being.
This has been so insightful, and I'm sure our listeners feeling that way too. So let's recap for them. What are the key takeaways about the entourage effect?
Well, remember that the entourage effect is about synergy, how different compounds in cannabis work together, and how that can be better than just isolated compounds.
It's like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. Also, even though we're learning a lot, we still need more research to really understand all the complexities of the entourage effect.
We're still writing the symphony, so to speak.
And finally, the entourage effect really shows the potential benefits of whole plant cannabis. It's about appreciating the complexity of the whole plant and how all those compounds work together.
So instead of just one instrument, we're listening to the whole orchestra.
Precisely. And as we continue exploring, we'll discover even more about how cannabis can improve our health.
We've covered so much today, from those tiny cellular signals to the big picture of personalized medicine. The entourage effect is clearly a huge topic with so much to explore.
It is, and it has the potential to truly transform how we approach health and wellness in the future.
Absolutely. For our listener, I'll leave you with this. What role do you see cannabis playing in the future of medicine? Think about a world where the healing power of plants is fully accepted and integrated into healthcare. It's a powerful idea to consider.
It is, and it encourages us to keep learning and asking questions about this amazing plant.
And that's what the deep dive is all about. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.